Hey, what's up? I hope you're doing super well. We'll get started. Let me do this. So I hope everything is well with you. Today is another critique session, as you've seen. It's going to be a similar one, but a bit of a different format this time. First off, I am going to keep this live stream, this particular one, a little shorter, just because my voice is a little tired, honestly. So we'll go for about an hour this time, but we can continue with these critiques. I don't mind doing almost every live stream critiques. This is really good fun for me. But I can see it's going to be all about the artworks. I will do my best to see what's going on in the chat. Hey Liz, hey Tom, hey David, hey Jill. David and Liz, there are going to be paintings of yours in this critique session. I don't remember everyone whose paintings I'm going to show, but you are definitely here. So yeah, so we can actually get to it. Let me know if there are any problems, that you can hear me well, see me well. I'm gonna open up the stream on my end here. Yeah, good, I can hear myself well. Hey Tattoo Tank, how are you doing? So yeah, so I'm gonna have my trusty digital thing here. And this one, yeah, okay, good. What's this? This is the wrong one. Which one's the wrong one? Okay, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So I'm gonna alternate between these two views. I'm gonna have my pen so that I can actually draw on top of your works and improve some stuff if necessary. Hey John, how are you doing? Hey Cubs with. Hey Pat. Pat, gonna have your painting here too. Pence Palacio, hey, it's been a while, right? Robin is here. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. We'll just jump into it. I do want to get everyone's paintings this time. And again, just a reminder, we're running for about an hour today. So this one is by David, who is here. Thank you so much for sending this one. Let me tell you a couple of interesting things about this painting. And I have the reference right next to it. You've done a really good job. So one of the first things I like to notice is the values, right? And that's where most of the realism and the feeling of believability comes from. Then you can be a little more expressive with the colors. So one, you got the values pretty nice in. Two, you got some very good colors. So what do I mean by that? If you've seen my latest video on colors and how not to use too saturated colors, which, you know, always when you give this advice, you have to remind people that the opposite is also true, and sometimes you will be interested in using a lot of saturated colors, which is totally fine, right? But for the sake of this particular painting, you did a really good job with the colors here. Like, nothing's too exaggerated, and I love how they're expressive colors, so greens and reds and a bit of oranges. Very nice palette, but also you're not overdoing the saturation, which is really a good thing, I think. A really nice and balanced look. With that said, we will look at some corrections, which is going to be very simple because I can draw on your paintings. Pencil, I see, yeah. It's important though. Med school is important. I want you to do your best, put your finest efforts in. So my main critique for you, David, would be you're missing the mid values, which is something that happens very often. So, for example, if you look at this area right here of the, sorry, let me get my bearing here for a second. So all I need is actually just dark paint. I'm gonna add a layer here and show you. This is gonna be low opacity, and we're gonna use a smooth brush. There we go. And yeah, that's better. Just getting it set up here. I want to make sure. Yeah. Okay, so if you're looking at a lot of areas here, you do have the darkest darks, like the glasses here. Now, they're not as dark as they could be, right? Because you can see the glasses are really dark, right? If I go ahead and go like this, right? That's pretty dark. So you can go darker. What you're missing is actually the mid values. So if I were to look at this area right here, look at how it's actually darker. I know you put a bit of paint there. You can go stronger, and I'm going to show you how to really make this pop. So if you go even stronger on this area right here, and you have a pretty strong shadow around here. Now I'm going to probably mess up some of the shapes because I am using quite a big brush. I just want to show you the kind of the gist of it, right? There's a pretty strong shadow around here, right? Connects to here, connects to the nose. You see all of these things? Here you got it right. This is very nice. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like. And don't worry, I'm gonna, after this one, we're gonna go through the paintings a little faster this time, but after this one I will devote some more attention to the chat. Don't worry, I see you, chat. But you see how just makes it pop a little more, and then it allows you, if you want to, go very dark on these, and I can probably switch over to a sharper brush and just show you. So for example, the hair here, you could probably go much darker. That good. You see something like this, a little stronger. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it this way, right? I'm just showing you where you may have been a little off. And if you look at it from afar, right, look at the difference, with and without the mid values, right? That's what you're missing. Now, I can show this to you a couple of times, but until you make a commitment, I'm not talking just about you, David. I'm talking about anyone who's dealing with this very common issue. Until you make a commitment, you're going to notice it the next time and really pay attention to solving it, quote unquote. That's when you'll really improve. Okay? When you actually decide, okay, this is something I've been doing for a while. I know it's not as accurate as I could be. I know, for example, that I'm painting a lot of the lights and a lot of the darks, but I'm missing the in-between. When you make a decision to really focus on that, you will start seeing great progress there. There's a bunch of these mid values, and they're hidden, right? Even here, you noticed it, right? Because you put this red here. You noticed it, just you need to be a touch stronger, okay? Now, it was easy for me because you did all the hard job, right? All I have to do is now paint over your painting. You did the drawing, you did everything else. But I do want to kind of direct your attention to it, right? And then in the areas that should be darker, you go ahead and you make them even stronger, right? Because there are some very dark shadows around here. And look at how much depth it gives it. See how this feels much more three-dimensional than this? That's honestly right there. That's the mistake most people make. So look at this, look at that. Let's zoom in a bit, zoom out, sorry. Look at this, look at that, right? There's a lot going on there. And we can play with making them a little weaker, right? Maybe that's a bit more of a natural look for them, but that's the range most people miss. So that's where I'd go looking. So let's see who's in the chat real quick. Robin, hey again. Monica, how are you doing? Josephine, your painting is gonna be here. Pence Palacio says med school has been a tough time for me. Haven't painted for months now. Yeah, if you can find like 20 minutes, I know it's super challenging, but even like 20 minutes just for the soul, you know, not trying to achieve anything, but just doing it, that could be fun. Hey Manisha, good morning from India. Richard, hey, how are you doing? Sharif Sadiq, hi from Queens, New York. Hey, thank you for being here. David, mid values are always my downfall. Yeah, no worries. You can screenshot this and then go ahead and retry it. You did get the drawing very accurately. You got very nice colors, very good harmony. I'm not sure if you've been using like 3 or 4 colors or just a random assortment, because some of these do look like they came from different groups, like this green versus the brown. That's okay. That's not the end of the world at all. You got the rest really well. RK, your paintings are going to be here too. So thank you for sending them over. Hey Pierre, good morning from Australia. Thank you, got it, David. Happy I could help. And hey, David. David too, David Mazzarelli, how are you doing? I believe, did I reply to your comment? I saw your comment and I didn't get the opportunity to reply, I think. Nancy G, good morning from Akron, Ohio. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Let's move on to Josephine's work. So what do we have here? Yeah, okay, so we have this one. Okay, good, 2. So Josephine, very interesting things here. So I actually really like the way you mix your colors. I think you're actually seeing the colors fairly accurately, but the main mistake you make, in my opinion, right, in my humble opinion, is a bit too much symbolism. What do I mean by that? You paint things in the way you know and are familiar with, rather than what they actually appear, which is totally fine. Again, if your goal is to be accurate, there are a few things you can do. So it all comes down at the end of the day to the shapes and values, where colors are kind of a secondary thing in my opinion. So in terms of the values, a lot of these are a little off. Some things could be lighter, some things could be darker. By the way, I think the photo itself is very misleading. So let me go ahead like this. Just fix it. It was probably taken in not ideal lighting, but now I see it a little better. So one thing about shapes, right? So this is something I talked about in a previous live stream. Windows from the side. Look at how the shape of this window is really thin, right? That's thin because we're looking at it from the side, as opposed to if we were to look at it from the front, we'd probably see a little more, right? Because we're looking at it from the side, it is really thin, like this. So the way you drew it doesn't really conform to that. Now, the way the window is built and is aimed or facing is with perspective. So we have a bunch of lines here that are parallel, and they're gonna meet, you know, somewhere out there in the wilderness to the right. Now, yours don't really conform to that. So here's what happens. Whenever you have a horizon line somewhere, I don't know where exactly it is, but let's say it's here. Let's make it a little more prominent so we can actually see it. Let's say this is our horizon line. Whenever we have an object that is horizontal, for example, this rooftop, it's horizontal, right? So it's gonna go down towards the horizon line. It's not gonna go up like this, okay? In this particular setting of us looking at this side of the building. So this line goes to the horizon line. And these lines as well. So what you end up getting is these lines don't really face the right direction with you. So once you decide where the horizon line is, I have tons of videos on that. That's a different topic, separate completely, because it's tough. You'll have to dive deeper into that. The rest of the lines are going to conform to that. What's definitely not going to happen is these windows aiming up there. Okay? So what you'll get is more of this kind of a thing, conforming with the rest of the building. So wait, let me fix that a bit. Something like this. Perhaps. Right, that's still wrong. I mean, it should be like this, if anything. Right? I can't make it disappear because I painted directly on it, but whatever. So the thing that's definitely not going to happen is the window going like this, which is what you have. So just one note. Now again, things that are aiming kind of away from us, like this entire wall, will probably get much more squeezed, right? So now we're talking about drawing. And you'll notice a lot of other inaccuracies, like these different shapes here, right? And you've made them a little lower angle, right? See the difference? And also a little wider. It's nuanced, but they're a little wide. So in essence, what may be challenging for you to see is what happens when an object moves away from you. So when you look at my hand like this, you see it's full length, right? But as I do this, it gets really narrow. See this? As opposed to this. So that's one thing you may want to train your eyes to see a little better. So that's in terms of shapes and drawing, right? And again, I don't assume that's necessarily what you're after. I'm just critiquing because unless you give me a specific things you want me to critique, of course, I'm just going to talk about how to make it more like the thing you're painting based off of. And by the way, I see a lot of my early mistakes in this. A lot of them. I used to paint very similarly, make very similar mistakes to you. The main difference was maybe I had a bit more drawing experience, but other than that, pretty much the same mistakes. Okay, same goes for this wheel, right? So the wheel is actually not facing towards us. It is at a bit of an angle. And you can really see this, and you flattened it out, okay? So just something to note. Very important, comes up a lot. Now in terms of values, and we can just turn both of these black and white, and you'll see how some of the values are off, but I wouldn't even say it's that bad, right? So the sky is, to me, that's pretty similar. That's a bit of nitpicking to me to say, okay, this is a little darker than that. It's pretty similar. Not that bad. Now, if you look at this wall, for example, it's facing the light. Now, I don't feel like there's a strong light source, right? This feels a little gloomy. I don't know if that's like London and that's the London eye, but that's kind of what I'm imagining in my mind, completely imagining and making up. But what happens is, because the light is present somewhere to the right, this thing is pretty light. So look at this here. and the way you did it, right? So very different feel. Same for the window frames here. See, there's this tendency to see the darks and just paint the darks and miss the mid values and the kind of in betweens, which is pretty much what you have here. Sorry, this isn't black dark. It's kind of a mid value, if you will. Same for this building, right? So you got it here, a little too light, right? All of this is actually in the darkness. So let me show you how very easily, just like the previous example, I can give this some sense of three-dimensionality, okay? Just by touching up on the values, nothing too significant. Oh, that's a fun little effect. Let's see here. Oops. Like this. Yeah, because it straightens the lines. That's interesting. So yeah, so let me just go ahead and create a layer and do this and get my slightly mid-value paint, and we're just gonna cover it up with that paint with a new layer that's somewhat transparent. And here we are. So big shapes. When I say big shapes, I mean big shapes. So this thing is a big shape of shadow, right? Let me make this a little stronger and let me make this a little darker. So that's dark. This entire thing here under the snow is dark, right? So now you start seeing the separation. I'd probably argue this is a little dark too. And now under, I don't see what happens under the fence, so it's just kind of ends there, but otherwise you would have some nice bright snow that would look really good as well. And you see how you create just a bit of a separation between the two layers. I would honestly probably get this to be even, or at least like a darker. I can do this. Let's see here. I can do this and go cover it up with even stronger paint, right? Just to show this separation. And this building's wall could be a little lighter actually. So if I go ahead and just brighten it up a bit, right? And then you go ahead and you fix that thing that's a little too. You could just take the color that you see here, of course, and you see how it just makes it look a little more like the actual thing. Now, we have a lot of corrections with the drawing as well that are necessary, so it's not going to be perfect, but it starts to set up the large shapes. So it's very easy to get lost in all of these details. What I would challenge you is to simplify the entire thing into a couple of very simple shapes. To me, what I see is, and if you've been following my stuff for a while, you probably know what I'm seeing. I'm pretty much seeing, I still got to get used to these Photoshop. I should do this in Clip Studio. It's much easier for me. So, like, this is one, right? One shape. So the sky, the buildings here, that's another shape. That building in its entirety, and the ground. So now you have some main shapes to work with, right? And you see that this is a little darker and muted, which you got nicely. The sky's a little more saturated, right? So that's going to be a little stronger but lighter. So cleaner blue but lighter value, right? And then that building, maybe you devote more specific attention to that because it's a big focal point, right? So usually I'll do something with the focal point that makes it look like it's a focal point, right? So it just makes sense, Josephine. We have another one, but let's see what's going on in the chat real quick. Simply Steffi, hey, from Philippines. So Steffi, I don't know if you're the Steffi who sent me a painting, but we will have Steffi here in just a moment too. So yeah, I hope you'll watch it. Sharanya says, hi, Liron, Pramon Jangam from India. Thank you so much for being here. John Smith, hey, Liron. Hey, John. Makala, hi, Liron, from India. And Rajshri Ramesh, hi, Liron. And the Green Sun, hi, from Hawaii. That's cool. So thank you so much. We have people from all over. So let me just, oops, sorry. I'll undo here. Just want to clean it up because I drew all over it. Maybe we'll go back to it. If anyone has a follow-up, just let me know. Now, here's another perfect example. So the original has a lot more values, a lot darker. I could just grab a brush real fast, go darker over everything. And you do notice a pattern here? This really, Josephine, I love how you gave it. That's how you gave it that. That's something I struggle with a lot. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see a lot of the ways I used to do things, for sure. So yeah, new, not new group, sorry, new layer. And let's try, can I get a brush that won't like kill the colorfulness? So can I do a darken? How will it look? Let me try. I'm not a big expert in drawing in Photoshop. I'm more of a image editor, rather. So if this is, oh, you know what I will do? No, this is gonna be normal. This is gonna be darken, and we'll see what happens. So if it's normal, let's see what the difference is. Let's see. Normal, dissolve, nope. Darken, multiply. Yeah, it doesn't change a thing. Oh, that's good. Wait, overlay? I'll go with overlay for now. We'll see how it goes. And we'll lower the opacity, right? So, and that's as dark as it. Okay, I see. I go like this. Okay, got it, guys. So, right, so notice how there are big dark shapes here. Well, definitely darker than what you have them. And what happens once we put in all of this darkness pretty much everywhere? Even the water is significantly darker, right? Even this rail here, or this, or that is a little dark. And I feel like this overlay feature isn't really good for my purpose. Let's just go with normal. And then let's remove the opacity. Right, so once you darken everything, and maybe, let's say you leave some details, as we see here, a little lighter, right? Here we go. Maybe go with a bit of that. Then the boat gets a chance to shine. Because what you'll get now is an opportunity to show how strong it is. And that's where you want to crank up the red, right? Go a little stronger even. And get some of this, sorry, I'm with the eraser, still get some of this strong kind of red paint, right? It goes into kind of a dark one, you see? So just this kind of a thing, it's very dominant by, and I'm gonna film a video on this exact topic, actually. It's gonna be soon, but this is such a common thing that so many people do as a mistake. There's just so much darkness, and we tend to just miss it all, right? Here it may be a little lighter. Let me actually make the opacity of the eraser a little lower. So we see here it's a little lighter, right? Maybe here where the reflection of the sky, maybe even here it's a bit lighter, just a bit, really. But like, can you tell how big of a difference there is if you're trying to get the realistic, let's say, values? Look at that, right? You're just missing a step. You're missing a full step of shading, and this from afar looks a little more closer to the photo and a little more realistic, to be honest with you. And all you had to do is, and notice your colors are decent, because look at what happened. All I did was put like a dark layer above, and the colors still are similar. That shows me, because I cover it with a neutral paint, I just darken it with neutral paint, and it still looks similar to the colors in the photo, which means you got your colors pretty accurately. Okay, it's all about that next step. And this is something I see all the time. People post their paintings and they ask, like, why does this look flat, empty, like it's missing something, like it's boring? Well, it's missing all the shadows, right? So I hope that helps. John, I was just working on my shading book. The tip I can give you is always start with images converted to black and white to simply observe the values. Yep. That's good advice. Now, Josephine, the good news is I think you're much better than how I was in matching colors. So I had a big problem, and I still do sometimes, with matching colors. So, you know, that's your opportunity. That's something to work on. Ricky says, konnichiwa, o genki desu ka? Hi, genki desu. I'm doing well, thank you. So Steffi is up next. So Steffi, I think you sent me just this one, right? If I'm not mistaken. Now, let me, now that I look at it, just make this a little larger so we can actually see more of the painting. There we go. I'm not sure about the That's not what I meant to do here on another window. I'm not sure about the values and like the photos. Let's see here. Yeah, so I think, I don't know. I think it's okay. I think the photo is relatively accurate. So yeah, really good job on this one. So obviously you decided to focus on a small section of the painting. I really like this kind of a thing. I think it's very wise to choose a section of a painting to focus on that gets you more focused, gets you more accurate. So I see two main things here. One thing, and your drawing is fairly accurate. So one thing is going to be the colors, and the other is going to be the values. So your values are pretty close. It seems to me like you may be scared to go that one tiny extra mile, just a little bit darker. And I can see this in areas such as right here, right? You see how dark that is? Right here, as opposed to here. The tires, for example. And even more important than that is going to be that background, because it is quite dark. And if you really want it to pop, you'll have to be courageous and get it as dark. Because you got the boat in the right value. The boat looks really good, right? But to make it truly pop, go that extra mile, it's going to look fantastic. Now, one more thing. I said colors. Now, it's very easy to look here and see some purple and think to yourself, oh yeah, that's a nice little, you know, lilac-y kind of purpley color, right? All sorts of variations of it, and just put it here. The problem is, if you look at the sky, generally speaking, look at this here, this area where my swatch is. Look at how it never really crosses much into the top right corner. If I match the color, for the most part, even up here, it's still around the center maybe. What this tells me is that the colors aren't as saturated. So look at this blue, right? More saturated than, for example, this blue. Here. Look at where this falls on the swatch and where this falls, right? This is much more saturated. So what you have here feels a little too saturated for my taste. It's not a huge divergence from the original, but it feels a little too strong. So what happens, it's not necessarily a mistake, it just competes with the boat. Because the boat has this beautiful blue, why not break it off? And actually, I'm curious now to see this entire thing in black and white. Yeah, the values are pretty much on point. So why not break off that strong blue and make this blue pop more by simply neutralizing it? So if you go, I could probably just go like this and do like image adjustment, hue saturation. We're just gonna lower the saturation here just a bit. And you see now it's much less of a competition. And you actually got it really nicely in the green. So what people tend to do is go with very bright greens. Like what you have here, they'll put in the background and they'll wonder why they don't feel the depth. You got a neutral green here. Like look at where we are down here. You got a neutral green. Same thing with the blue. Just go a little more neutral and you'll do good. Your color matching is really good, like especially this area, this mark on the boat, like you really nailed it. You're really close. So yeah. Hey Joyce, your painting is gonna be here soon too. It's so fun that everyone who painted is here. That's great. So yeah, Steffi, I hope that makes sense. Joyce, let's do yours. Because you're here, it's really a good opportunity. So I'm very excited about this one. It's pretty much the same critique as the rest. The main difference, I would say, is you really, like, you chose a tough one. There's so much going on here. So a couple of things you'll note, again, with the colors, you went for like very strong yellows. You can see it especially here, where the original is kind of a muted gold-ish thing. So again, watch your saturation and try not to go way too overboard with it if you can. Now, the same thing we've shown so far applies here. It's all about the values. It's all about those groupings of dark values. So let me show you once again. Look at the difference. We can even work on it like black. So I have to commend you because some areas you got really nicely. Like this here, That's very nice, very close, right? So a tendency we have is again to miss the mid values. So this here is a mid value. It's not light, and you got it light. When you get it light, it can break the illusion. So just know that. It's a very minor thing, but it actually influences it. Look at how much darker and nuanced it is here. So that's one more thing to pay attention to. I actually really enjoy seeing this in black and white. So let's go about it this way. So if you just go ahead and kill off some of the highlight here, right? Maybe not as dark, but like something like this. Just get it a little closer to dark. It makes it a little less poppy. Same goes for these, like this side of the thing. And yes, you can say this should be darker, right? But that to me again is a bit of a nitpick because it's pretty close, right? If anything, this section does need to be darker, but this thing it looks good. So let's see here, because I'm trying to really get something new. So obviously these areas right here, you see that's quite strong. Most of this is going to be fairly dark too, with this exception of just a small highlight there. But all the bottom, like this should be dark. It should be dark. So let's give it a try and see what happens. I'm going to use the same layer. It's okay. And here's a fun experiment for you. Zoom out. If you have Photoshop, try it in Photoshop. If you have something else, you can try it out there. And just see if you can, I guess from a very zoomed out position, darken like the main overall kind of, you know, overall feel, right? So just see this. Like, I actually like that the statue in your painting is more well lit, and I'm gonna keep it this way, except for the stand. Let's make the statue really pop here. This goes like this, right? This is a little darker. This, funny enough, around the top area here should be a little lighter, actually. So we'll lighten that. We didn't have much of that today, so that's gonna be fun. So there we go. This. Right, and notice how it's pretty much the same mistakes we've seen so far, over and over again. People tend to make the exact same mistakes, right? Now, if you want to be a little more, let's say, natural, we can add a bit of a shadow onto some parts of that sculpture. It's a really nice looking one, like this. I think that's pretty accurate here. That's pretty accurate there. If you want to bring back, again, some of these highlights that are there. So like, actually, let's go ahead with a lighter value. Better way of going about it. Sharper brush. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Let me know if you have, again, any questions. So this area around here needed to be really thin. This, right? So that's a little lighter. That side is a little lighter. Do these details again. This kind of a thing, which could compete with the sculpture. So actually, let's leave it dark. And here, right, this area is a little lighter, right? And look at how, and actually, this should be a little darker. This, just get rid of some of that. And look at how much more depth there is now, right? If you compare the two, like this, you know what? This here on the left feels like someone took a photo with very strong flash and used something to diffuse all the light, so you get just a very strong, even light. Whereas this, boom, you get that depth, right? You get that sense of it's just so much more rounded, even, or well-rounded. You know, it has a more natural feel to it. That's just my feeling. Again, feel free to do things differently, but you sent me critique, so this is how I approach these things. Josephine, thank you so much. I don't know why shading is such an obstacle for me. Even when I do add strong shadows, I don't know when to stop, so I end up with an overworked dark painting. You know what? That's actually better than not dark enough, in my opinion. And I've gone through this. When I first kind of decided to really go for the values, I had to force myself to go darker, and very often I'd end up with overwork. And that's okay, right? The most beautiful thing is to see a painting, and this, you're gonna love this, everyone. The most beautiful thing to me is seeing a painting by someone who has zero technique, but great understanding of light and shadow and colors. So what you end up with, someone just doesn't have that much experience in watercolor, And the painting still looks awesome. The technique is off. Things are patchy. You can see that it was done in multiple glazes. But the values look good. The colors look good. It looks fantastic. And I recommend you give it a try. Now, we could go even a step darker if we want to. And I'm going to do this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next painting. But right around here, you see that gets pretty dark. Right around here, this frame of the window. Actually, almost everything here is pretty dark. This is pretty dark. This here between the sculpture, pretty dark. You see, and the more you add these layers, the more sense the scene will make to the viewer. The more they're like, oh, I see now. Yeah, okay, that reads really well. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions about that. But like the before and after is really, really something, right? So yeah, that's my thoughts. And hey, Marina, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Let me move on to the next one. So Liz, there we go. So we have a process. Now you were saying, and I don't remember what you wrote. So let me make sure that I get it. Liz. Yeah, so this is for the October snow. The highway travel, okay. I was happy with the first wash. Not happy with the tree values to the right. The rock cars are a bit off. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is great. This really also reminds me of some of the works I've been doing. Yes, Steffi, it's my pleasure. Have we gotten to yours yet? I'm becoming senile, I guess. Yeah, we have. My bad. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm happy I could help. And thank you so much for sending them in. So where were we? Yeah, Liz. So we have this one. So this is the sketch, right? And you can see it here. Pretty solid sketch, I would say. Maybe I can paint over it and kind of show you my approach. And then we have the first wash, pretty solid too. Like at this point, this is pretty accurate. There is a bit of, let me for a second here. I'm missing some. Yeah, I'm missing some. I see it. Okay, you're gonna love this. So let's do the same kind of thing. We'll get the canvas contain both, so that's gonna be to 900, for example. Then we'll move this because I really want to show you these two together. I think it will be very useful. And then we'll go ahead and bring just this section here towards this one. Oh, sorry, I need a reference. My bad. Second. I tried merging as many as I could references and paintings beforehand, but I barely made it in time, so there we go. Okay, so let me zoom out a bit, and you tell me, Liz and everyone else, like what may be missing here. Now, one thing I noticed, and that's more shallow, is that purple. Like everything is purple. Right? And it's one of my pet peeves. If your darks always end up being purple, it could be a little annoying to the eye. And that happens usually when you're not trying necessarily to mix a gray. So you end up putting a lot of blue and red, end up with a purple, and it just can feel sometimes unnatural or not as natural. So if I just go ahead and do image adjustments, hue saturation, let's maybe try and switch up the hue a bit if we can. I'm not that good at this kind of image manipulation, but you see, this looks to me a little more. Let's do colorize for a second here. It's kind of, it should be a little cooler, but a little more neutral, honestly. You know what? I'm gonna just reduce the saturation. Oops, I could have done that actually. Let me go ahead like this, and then there we go. So something like that. Just to get rid of some of the purple, because it bugs me a bit. And then So see, the tree is really nice. Some of these trees on the left are really nice. But what's missing here to me is some kind of a unifying force. Once again, this is a very common issue that many people have. And the unifying force here is, look at the road here. Right, so if you look at the road right here, pretty much one shape. Even these trees are pretty much one shape. All of this fog in the background. And then maybe we have another layer with these trees here. And then we have this shape of white ground. So if we were to really dumb it down to a few simple shapes, we would get... I want to really show you this. We would probably get this road that pretty much just goes to, you know, blurriness. And then we get these trees here that combine completely with the sky here, right? There's barely any difference. But it is pretty much the same layer as this. We have the tree. We have this other layer of trees and possibly this, you know, some details in the foreground. And then we have the ground here and we have this area that's a little less clear. So let's count how many shapes we have, right? 1, 2. Let's say the sky is 1, the tree is 2, 3 for the foggy trees, 4 for the road, 5 for the ground, 6 for this, 7 for these, like 7 major shapes. Now, with the painting here, it feels to me like there's sky is 1, tree is 2, and then we have 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you see what I mean? And I know it's a very subjective thing, the way I'm dividing it into shapes, but to me, these are all things I perceive. And if I perceive them, it means they read as separate shapes. What you're missing is a sense of unification. Besides that purple. So I would grab this entire thing, and I'm gonna actually use your colors. Let's use your colors here. Why should I use like a, you know, a black color layer above? Let's just use the colors you use, right? So yes, it is light, but it's barely visible. So to me, honestly, the way I see it, this here will get the same treatment. This entire, let me actually make the brush really big. So this thing is 1 to me. This entire thing is 1 once again. Then we have a bit of a shadow here. Not the best way of explaining it, but hopefully that makes sense. So a bit of a darker patch here, and these trees are all one group, and that's pretty much it, right? You unify some of the things together. Now, one thing to that point is clarity, because I don't feel like there's enough clarity. So when you look at this little patch of land that has a lot of snow on it, I want to see it. Like, I really want to see it clearly. It starts here. Let me even go lighter than that, right? So it starts here, goes down. I'm missing some of that. Here it's very clear. This is the shape. This is the shape. But here they kind of got, again, lost, as you said, lost track in the middle of the road in a way. You see? It's just missing a bit of that clarity to it. Okay? Now, the values, you know, could be improved. Like these trees are, like these trees are much lighter. Let me get rid of this entire layer. These trees here, much lighter in the reference photo. These are minor changes. It's not a impression breaking completely, so that's fine. But you know, all of these things. One thing I will say about these trees is they really compete with the road in your painting. Here they're very weak compared to the road, and here they're darker. Because once again, this should be darker here and unified with this. The fact that you've tried getting all of these small details in hurts the process because you got them way too light, right? This is way too light, way too strong. So these are my 2 cents about regarding this one. How would it make sense? Let me know if you have, again, follow-up questions. I'm going to leave everyone's paintings open. We have, so that was the previous, oh yeah, the finished, I didn't even refer to the finished product, but the reason I didn't is because it took a lot of the issues that I had previously and kind of reinforced them. The feedback about purple, though, that stays the same. Let me actually just make sure because I completely forgot there's another stage. So let me do this. Good. Hello. Ruth came home from a walk. So let's just take a quick look here and just make sure that we're somewhat on point. So this, I'm gonna do Control C, Control V, there we go. Okay. Same kind of thing, right? Again, this road is too fragmented, same as I was saying earlier, too fragmented. The car, we didn't touch upon the car. Honestly, the best thing I can tell, and by the way, look at how, again, so this should all feel like a pretty much unified shapes. And what this allows, have they been unified, you would be able to show these headlights of the car. It would be visible because it's in the context of all of this foggy area. Because it's a little fragmented, these will never be visible here, right? Because you have so many little highlights competing with that. Whereas if you darken the whole thing, keep your groups of value together, you could actually have these show as individual headlights, okay? Now, as for the car, I'll give you a suggestion, not necessarily a correction. First off, it's much lighter in the original, yes. It's very easy to say, oh, I don't see it properly, so let's darken it, and you end up with this. I ended up with this plenty of times in the past, okay? So trust me, it's a very common issue. Here's my advice to you. Grab just this area, just this, and try and see if you can even black and white and paint that. So now you start to see that the car is pretty much similar value to, say, the road, right? And you can actually probably get away with drawing them as one shape. And bear with me, I want to show you. Actually, let's do a live kind of almost painting demo because it is on paper. But I do, not on paper, it is like on your page and digitally. But I want to show you something interesting, okay? So the way this is set up right now, let me do this. I'll grab this, move it around over to here, and fill it up. I want to show you something. So if we were just to grab this kind of a mid value and keep it simple, so we're prioritizing simplicity over details and getting every small thing here, okay? So I see that the car is pretty much a very similar value to, and let's actually add a frame here, it's going to help me. So the car is pretty much a similar value, let's say, to the road. So let's simplify the whole thing, right? Something like this. All the way down to the road, right? Pretty much the same value, not identical. And then the sky is very grainy, that's correct, but let's make it lighter. Okay, now it's not easy to get all of these nuances of light and shadow. I don't have to mix anything, right? So I'm having a bit of an easier time. But still, it's something I would have to deal with on paper as well, as I always do. So there we go, we got the car. Now you recognize that this glass part of the car, I never remember what to call, is a little darker, right? And maybe there's a bit of darkness under the car, right around here. And then you notice that you have the mirrors, right? So you have one here, and then you notice that this part is, and you can see a bit of that side window, and this part is a little lighter. So you don't even have to match the color, just go ahead, oh, this is lighter, okay, good. And make it a little lighter, right? And then get some information on the tail lights, right? So they're a bit darker maybe. And you see how slowly, and then maybe we have a bit of a darker shadow under the car, like this. And maybe we have a highlight on top of the car. Maybe the taillights are on and we actually see them, right? But look at how, if you follow basic shapes, you get it. You don't need to paint each and every small detail. So what I want you to try and practice is, can you paint just this area? And then if you want to add some sense of depth to it, now we're really gonna have fun. So we're gonna choose something like this and add a few of these, right? The stripes that lead us into the scene. Probably should be a little flatter, honestly, the way I see this. See, like this, maybe, right? Something like that. Maybe it's a dotted line, right? Whatever it is. So can you do just this small contained area, right? I hope it makes sense. But yeah, let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Joyce, thank you so much, Liron. That's really helped me a lot. I know my painting was a bit off, but I can't tell what it is. You nailed it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sending them. For sending the painting. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So we have Pat. Okay, and Pat is here. So actually, I don't have much to say about these because they're so good. So I'll just go through them because they're pretty. I'm not even sure if the light and shadow could be made a little more, a little clearer. But like this is great, you know. And even the fur isn't really overworked, right? One thing you want to notice is just the overall values feel to me a little tiny bit confused. And I don't see the reference, so it's a bit hard to comment exactly on why that is. But sometimes it could be the photo just like that, right? And I do love you added some blue temperatures here, a little cooler, a little warmer. That's great. Sometimes the photo itself is a little confused in terms of the values, but let's imagine a strong light coming from the left, for example, right? So you'll get something like this. Something like strong light from here. And then what you'll get is this side of the face is gonna be a little darker, right? Now notice how, and this will be a little darker, maybe this area here is gonna be a little darker. Notice how there is a lot of clarity and precedence to the big shapes of value, right? And you'll probably have a bit of shadow down here, something like that. I love dogs' faces, they're so cute. Something like this. Notice how the light and shadow take precedence over the getting every color and value you see, right? So that's one thing to consider. I don't know what the photo was like, and it could be 100% accurate, right? So I'm trying not to judge it too harshly, let's say. So yeah, but overall great work, very realistic, more realistic than many of my paintings for sure. And then we have another one, really, really cute. Now, what I like about this one is I think the colors are a little more balanced, and the background is nice. It's a nice addition. You don't see much of the background here, just a bit of it. But here it is a really, really nice little thing. So yeah, great job. I don't have too much to say, honestly. Like the fur even, again, is not overworked. You could push yourself to see how much you can get wet and wet done, so that even less fur texture shows and it's a little more balanced in terms of focus, right? If I were to just go and even blur some parts of this, the impression won't be hurt. It may even be improved, right? So that's a possibility. And last one, this elephant. So here I feel that issue again of big shapes of value may happen, but you know, this one's so cool. Like the color harmonies you got here are so subtle. The way you travel across all of this variety of oranges and grays and blues, this is so good. And I love that, I don't know if it's soap or salt effect, that's really, really cool. And quite frankly, all of these dry brush marks. So honestly, Pat, this time I don't have too much to say. I really love everything you shared. I really, really like it. Maybe a few, I don't know, inaccuracies in the, let's see if I can, that's not what I wanted to do. Never mind. Maybe a few inaccuracies, or very minor inaccuracies in terms of, back. This? Do you like my background from My Hero Academia? Maybe some minor inaccuracies in terms of drawing. It could be a little more. So let's say image. rotation. Let's flip it horizontally. So you see how, and this is a good trick for you if you feel like you're inaccurate in terms of the drawing, you can flip like a mirror, right? And then you get to see that maybe, let's duplicate. Maybe this, thank you. Yes, please duplicate the layer. That this eye here could perhaps be a little lower, actually, in order to truly meet the, and you can actually see this, you have lines guiding you here. See the creases, they go back here. So, and then if you image adjustments, sorry, what did I do here? Rotation, flip horizontally. Now it's a little more on point, right? So just this small correction. See how the eye's a little off? That's pretty much it. Just one more thing to pay attention to. So yeah. Thank you, Pat, for sending these. Sorry, I don't have that much to say. Richard, you're next. So I really, really like this. It's funny, it does remind me of a lot of the color combos I used to produce. So let me tell you my absolute favorite part of this. Can you guess what my favorite part of this painting is? Well, there are a few, but like my favorite is here. Because that's where you got the perfect like temperature thing going. Like from this beautiful, cool blue, very much phthalo-ish, even, it's not turquoise, but it could go all the way to turquoise, into an orange. That transition is so nice, you know, and everything else is nice pretty much. One tip I'll give you, so here it relates to the colors, because your drawing's on point, your values are pretty much on point in the context of the painting, right? That makes sense. Of course, probably some areas should be darker, some areas could be more mid-value, but in the context of this, and without a background and without seeing the reference, it's hard to tell. But one thing I will say about the colors is think big. So when you look at the entire painting, what the color arrangement is like. So instead of having this small, pretty transition from, and not pretty, actually beautiful, transition from cool to warm, how can we have that same concept going in the entirety of it? And the reason I say this is because it feels the temperatures are a little confused. So you get this beautiful transition, and then here it's warm, and here it's cool again, and the entire horse is quite cool, but then this area is warm. The back leg is actually warmer because of that yellow on top of the blue. So the temperatures feel a little confused to me. And if I were to do this, turn it black and white, you won't even notice, and I turn the contrast a bit more, but it doesn't matter. I think the photo is decent enough. In black and white, you wouldn't even think about it, right? It looks really smooth and nice. Like, it just pops when you look at it like this. So maybe the horse was really very cool and the person was warm. I'm not sure. But even if it was, like, try and think, how can I think big? How can I encapsulate what you got here? Like, is a perfect standalone painting. Perfect. Values, colors, shapes, edges even, right? You have a smooth transition here. That's super nice, right? So how can I take this and almost like a fractal where things work to the tiniest level, but when you zoom out, it's exactly the same, make it work for the entire thing, right? And that's taking it step further with planning, I'll say. You're happy with the face, right? The way to get there is more planning in advance before you start. And one way you can do this is to do a quick sketch and just paint it and play around with a few ideas. Do maybe even a few small sketches and see how you can play around with the ideas and have them look really good. But yeah, great job you did on this one. I love your recent work a lot. So way to go. The very blue horse is really what gets me here. And if anything, I would make this part be cooler rather than warmer, because it's a little more to the back, right? You did get it a little darker, and I get the idea. Maybe you were aiming for, like, let's darken this part, but let's use a warm to break off the coolness. So you darkened it with a bit of a orangey, kind of yellowy, maybe even reddish, I don't know, paint, which is a good thought, right? So now take that thought, not extrapolate, but apply it to the whole thing. Apply it to the painting as a whole. And I think we have the last person here, which is RK's Artworks. So your name on YouTube is RK's Artworks, and on Instagram it is RK Artwork 2022. So be sure to check that out. So I'm gonna go over, and I think my criticism is pretty much similar for most of these. Let me just remember. Yeah, okay. So very symbolic. Once again, it's what we had earlier. Very symbolic, like how things should appear, right? Now, your drawing is actually pretty on point. So your drawings are accurate. You have some perspective mistakes. For example, like things don't work here for me. That's a very common mistake of bringing up the horizon line way higher than it should be, right? So it's mostly going to be drawing things we're talking about. Like it's super high, and then this person is under the horizon line, right? I'm going to find an inaccuracy. I'm looking for something specific. So this means this is the height of a person, right? So any person you're going to put on this line is going to be the same height, right? So something like this. Okay. Now, if we take that same kind of size and just place the same per, you're pretty consistent. Yeah, it's the road. It's not even the people necessarily. So it feels like we're going uphill, which could be the case. Now, I did explain this, and it's not fully consistent actually, but that's maybe not the biggest issue here. Actually, there's a bigger issue. So if I take these parallel lines and connect them, and I explained this in depth in a different video, I'll find the horizon line, okay, where they meet. This is going to be my horizon line. By the way, I'm going to work soon on a perspective course, so don't worry. Now, if we were to connect these lines together, you see, they all should end here. This and that. So when I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, this goes uphill. But when I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not so sure. So there's a lot of inconsistency in perspective. Now, if you want to correct it, let's just see what we can do here. So that's going to be your road, right? Now, these buildings are going to be more like this rather than like that. So we'll get something like this, right? This should also go like that, right? Maybe you see a bit of the side of the building. Everything should lead up to this point. So these buildings will be a little stronger angle. This window will be, let's say we're going on that same, see? It will be like this. That's going to be more accurate, right? And then these, all of these bricks and everything should meet us here. So you'll get a bunch of bricks, sorry. A bunch of these bricks, like so, right? Different pattern than yours, but hopefully that makes sense. Same thing with these windows, right? What you essentially drew is, so if you take this building in the context of the painting, you drew a building where the windows look like this, right? And they don't look like this. They look like this. So this doesn't go up here. It goes down into the same vanishing point, which is this. If you know perspective, you get what I'm saying. If you don't, have plenty of videos on the topic. So just saying, thank you so much, Richard, for the super chat. Much, much appreciated. I'm still figuring out a way for me to show this here on the screen. Because in StreamYard, it's easy. I'm streaming through OBS directly. I'll find a way to show that you gave me that, and I super appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. That's awesome. That really means a lot. Maybe I can do... no, that will be a mess. Thank you so, so much. I can just do a screenshot, but yeah, no, it's okay. Thank you so much. So yeah, this is how it goes, pretty much. The black lines here indicate how the perspective would work in this case. Would work. And here we go again. So the drawing is pretty decent. Here it's a little more accurate. I love how these lines are actually very horizontal, because the mistake people mostly make is making them like this, and then it just doesn't make sense. You got that pier, or whatever you want to call it, really nice done. Stairs as well. So it's gonna be, in this example, I had another one. Yeah, okay. So the the shapes you use, like the overall proportions seem to be good. So like this mountain here, this group of buildings, and this pier, and then the group of boats, and the cliff here. But then when you get down to the specific elements, that's where you kind of lose the plot and you use a bit more symbolic drawing. So like this boat, for example, a boat may look similar, but not fully. So this part that meets the water will end up probably being a little flatter. Okay, like this, not as rounded. And then, and I'll switch brush, switch to this. And then, right, so you'll see some of the inside of the boat. But these little planks here, they should have some depth to them. And I'm using a huge brush, so it's hard to show. But they should be like not just a flat plank of wood, but rather they should have some three-dimensionality to them, right? And I get the feeling the way you draw, and many people draw actually, but you tackle the subjects that require it a bit more, is not taking enough of that into consideration. Okay, now let's talk about the colors, because that's another big one here. The colors are all over the place, and this is one of those things I talked about in a recent short of how very strongly saturated colors all over the place. So if I were to sample, right, so if I go for this this green here, it starts to get dangerously close to the high saturation. Same for these yellows, same for these oranges, even these blues, and it's a little too much. So to find the balance, I would instantly, so let me show you something cool. Okay, let me show, actually let's try and see if we can improve this. So let's go for hue saturation. Let's lower the saturation on almost everything. Make everything more bland and boring. And then we're gonna grab a brush, and we're just gonna do this interesting thing where we take this color, make it a little stronger, and I'm gonna try. I never tried this kind of a thing before, but look at this. So we're bringing in a bit more color to the foreground, right? So the water is close, we're bringing in a bit more color to that. This boat, for example, is pretty close. So let's grab just a nice little red here. Now let's do something like a saturated stripe, right? Now, of course, this isn't a perfect drawing or anything like that, or perfect painting, but like the balance of colors is really important. When you put this strong of a green in the back, it tends to kill the sense of depth, right? Because, and let me turn on the fan. It's a little hot. I don't know why, because I'm talking. Yeah, 1 second. I have to turn it on from there. Give me a sec. There we go. Need some wind here. When you go with such a strongly saturated color way in the back, it tends to kill the color harmony. Now, one more thing, like this cliff is super duper dark, and I'd actually be interested in seeing the reference photos for these so that I can give you really clear feedback. There is a matter of clarity of shapes, like all the buildings could be unified better. And for example, this mountain in the back, which I'm not sure how dark or light it is compared to the buildings, but I feel like this line isn't clear enough. I don't know why. It could be that the mountain needs to be darker. It could be that the buildings need to be lighter. It could be many things. Without seeing the actual thing, it's hard to tell. But yeah, just kind of my 2 cents on that. This one's actually one of the best in terms of drawing. I really like that. You got that nice, very nice shape up top, and that's how it works, you know, in, again, horizon line. Everything above the horizon line you're going to see from below, and everything below you're going to see from above. And if you just complete this kind of a shape, right, you get a cylinder. So great job on that. You really nailed the drawing here. Again, colors all over the place. I would also say, and that's more of a personal taste kind of thing, you are very strong on the outlines, right? So you can actually see the lines. And that's great. If you want to mask some of the shapes and make it a little more painterly, that's something to pay attention to. So like these strong lines, especially in the shadows, but you know, this and that. Like, if you want to be a little more painterly, I would avoid some of these and focus more on the shapes I see. But this could very well be the style you're aiming for, which is perfectly fine, right? Without seeing the reference, it's going to be hard to give like specific individual advice. But let me know. Let me know if you have references. RK, feel free to send them. I think that I need to work on three-dimensional things. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Like the drawing. So I feel like you have a bit to improve in every aspect, which is where most people are. It's not like one thing is perfect and the rest is terrible. Like all of them, you seem to have some experience, but it takes some work in all areas. So drawing, yes, can be improved. I think I have a feeling that you'll benefit a lot from gestures. Let me tell you why. Because for someone who practices gesture drawing, these kinds of lines will be intolerable. Like there should be some kind of a clear motif behind them, right? There should be something unifying the motion. For the boats, you actually got a very nice gesture. Look at how they're pretty much conforming to that same pattern, right? But yeah, that was a long one. In terms of like I was on a roll here. I feel good about this one. So gestures, I feel like a bit of drawing three-dimensionally, but even more than three-dimensionally, like how do you simplify a scene to a few simple shapes, right? This is one shape, one shape, one shape. Like keep it simple. You got it here. Like this is really on point. The stairs, this area here honestly is really, really good. So yeah, a bit to improve in every area, which is where most people are, including myself. So keep at it. You're doing a really good job, and keep practicing. That's the most important part. I believe you said you've been making art for a couple of years, but watercolor only a few months. That makes sense. I think I was pretty much at that level when I was maybe 3 months into watercolor. So good job. Very good job. So let me go over some of the chats, and I think we'll then wrap it up for today. Again, my voice is a little tired, so just letting you know. This is why we're cutting it a little short. I think an hour and 14 minutes now. It's decent. It's decent. So where did we stop here? Yeah, we were with Richard. Says love listening to these. Thank you so much. That's a cute doggo. Yep. Lefteris, great paintings. Thank you so much for being here, Lefteris, and great job, everyone. And thank you for submitting. Caitlin says great job indeed. John says hi, Liron. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for being here. Richard, thank you for, again, the super sticker, is it called, or super chat? I never know. Thank you so much for the £5. Much appreciated. Is it pounds? No, is it euros, right? Euros, pounds. I always keep the two confused. No, it's pounds. It's pounds. Come on. Euro is an E with a. That's a pound. Thank you so much. RK's Artworks. Thank you so much, Liron. Your critics are very useful. Happy to hear. Jennifer says hello everyone. Pence, currently studying while watching your live on the back. Oh, that's a bad way to study. But in any case, I hope I can entertain you for a bit. Liz, oops, fell asleep. Hello. Yep. We looked at your painting, so check it out. Jennifer, thanks Liron for streaming and offering your advice. My pleasure. We can do more next week or the week after. By the way, PP says hi Liron. Pat are so helpful. Okay, we read that. John, awesome paintings, everyone, and great feedback, Liron. Thank you so much, John. Joyce, thank you for your time. You got it. Arpad, which means vampire in Hebrew, funny enough. Will you have streams like this in the future? Yes. Next week, same time, 9 a.m. Eastern, probably. Joey Best, I always learn from the critiques, even though they aren't mine. Yeah, that's how it works. You can learn a lot from other people's work. Liz, oh, sorry, she'll have to watch over. Yeah, no worries. Lisa, hello from Idaho. Thank you for being here. Marjorie just dropped by to say hello and goodbye. We'll watch sometime later. Thank you for the hearts, PP. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone. So we'll cut it here today. I really appreciate it. Feel free to send me more works, and I'll be happy to review them. You can do that now. My email is liron@lironyan. I should have some text on the screen. Actually, I can do this. Let's just put it here. Email. Let's see, because it's a good opportunity for me to practice putting text in OBS. Liron at, oh, it shows up in real time. How nice. LironYan.com. You email me there. Definitely gonna be a different font, Bebas. There we go. My email address, can you see it? You should be able to see it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your works. And good. We're looking forward to seeing your works. And we'll do more. Hopefully I can start painting live again. I'm looking for this thing that should arrive from Amazon. It's been delayed because of the holidays here. Not really their fault, I think, but yeah. Once I have it, we can start streaming painting processes, which is going to be great fun. Hey Daiji, how are you doing? Thank you so much for dropping by. And don't forget to leave a like, everyone. Much appreciated. And yeah, I will talk to you again real soon. I'm going to cut it out now. And I'm not sure if there's going to be a Saturday video. Probably not. But I will post a few more shorts for sure. So we'll talk again real soon. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Have a great weekend. And keep painting.